Chris Wagner, and I guess I would like to talk about how the government has an active responsibility. In the last 2 weeks, we've had 2 reports come out with the Department of Roads and some of their employees spending money on gas. We've also had the parole board with a report that they're spending inappropriate funds. I think as a state we need to audit our departments better, see how that money is being spent, and that would also save on property taxes, because there's a waste and there's things that are going on that aren't necessarily legal by people that are doing it. And also, you know, we live in the state and we all know inflation's gone up, property taxes have gone up, and I've worked in the same job for 20 years, but my wages don't go up. I mean, Lincoln's a great city, Nebraska's great unemployment, but the businesses don't give incentive to the employees to work here. They think you've got a job, you're good, we don't need to give you any more money. So you get hurt as the middle class, and if property taxes increase more, it's going to shrink the middle class. We all know that America is good, we have a strong middle class. Thank you.
My name is Todd Paddock, and I live in Lincoln. And I want to thank all of you for having this hearing. As we know, our government failed to, and I'm very disappointed in that choice, and I really appreciate that you all made it happen. And I'm sure that's true of everyone in this room. I'm going to say something that will probably dissolve a lot of respect for the rest of what I might say, but I've never been concerned about my property taxes, ever. I'm not a rich person, but I don't spend a lot. I never owned a lot of land, never owned a really expensive home. I just pay the bill. It's not a big deal for me. If I wanted to save, I needed to reduce my cost. I could find other ways, because I believe in what those services are that money provides. Now that's my opinion, and I know it might be quite a minority, but perhaps you don't hear enough from those people like myself. The other thing, though, that concerns me greatly is this idea of taking local revenues for schools and placing the states as the source. That has been tried in California, it's been tried in Michigan. It did not work. When they had recessions, then revenues declined. Also, it did not improve equity among school districts, which I think was something that a lot of people hoped for. You had to have targeted, you had to target the school districts that needed that funding. And unless you did that, just sending the source to the state did not work as a solution. So I encourage others to look at this. There are states that have tried this, and you might be surprised. There are some states that did not make that change, and they did much better in providing revenues for their schools and reducing the inequality between schools. And so that is my biggest concern about the government's proposal so far. Don't want state control. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Bob Price. I also live in Lincoln, and I want to thank all of you for sponsoring this. Although I'm disappointed that my state senator is not here. Must be poking night in Elmwood, but that's all right. That's fine. One thing that I have not heard is I'd like to look. Okay, I lived in South Dakota, and I've lived in Florida. And I can tell you, that we moved back to Nebraska years ago when our children were getting up to school age. We had to make a decision. What do we want that's best for our kids for education? Having grown up in this state, in this town, and being the advantage of the public school system, we chose to move back. And we knew the property tax was going to be high. we factored that in because we also knew the quality of life in this state was good. So the comment I heard that I want to emphasize is Senator Reipe and Senator Raybould said, let's do some modeling. Let's look at this really carefully. I think we've politicized it too much, and that's why I don't think the state should take on the funding for all public schools, 144 districts that we have in the state. We haven't done a good job as a state in taking over other entities. So let's keep the quality and make it equal for all.
Hello, I'm speaking as a private citizen today and terrified, so bear with me. Just speaking on my own behalf, my idea of a great tax plan is no tax at all, but that's just crazy talk. So this plan actually sort of makes sense to me. This is actually the 5th state that I've lived in, but it's the highest tax one that I've also lived in. My mortgage has gone up about $150 per month because we no longer have enough in our escrow to cover taxes on our house. I was so proud of my little house. I bought it in 2018 as a single woman, and I refinanced it to 2.5% interest in 2020, so we're staying there. I had a 3-digit mortgage, it's not anymore. My 734 square foot home on Zillow is now worth over $200,000. Under this tax proposal, I would save almost $1,600 on property taxes, which have gone up significantly in the past 2 years specifically. I don't mind paying more in sales tax. I'd have more disposable income, which I would then be happy to use on good old Nebraska businesses because I love me some capitalism. From my understanding, this would also put us in line with other states around us, and also from my understanding of this plan, which is rudimentary, I will give you that, local control for education would remain untouched. I also love me some good local control. In my opinion, once property tax is lowered and the first company lowers rent on apartments because of it, others will follow suit and maybe people will be able to buy houses and get themselves into better situations. Thanks.
Hello again. I'm Machaela Miller-Jenkins. I live in Lincoln. I'm actually in Senator Conrad's district. 2 things about taxes, and then you're going to hear a lot of people's examples. I just want to make you understand from my perspective. So first thing on taxes is that there's over 35,000 industrial products you can make from industrial hemp, and it would not only open up the industry of hemp or recreational marijuana, medical marijuana itself, but it would also open up a textile industry that you could then create a numerous amount of jobs, which is clearly something that we need in our economy. The second thing is I would like to see more people addressing the fact that hedge funds and Bill Gates is the number 3 property owner in Nebraska. I would like us to start addressing the fact that people like me can't buy a job. So second part of mine is just bringing it home for you guys. My dad bought the home that I'm living in 1974 with his GI tax bill. We lost that home in the housing crisis in 2008. I am now renting that same home. My dad bought it for $58,000. My mom bought it from him for $120,000. I had intended to buy it at $170,000. Then my home was foreclosed upon without my landlord telling me that he had not been paying my rent for 6 months. So I paid my rent for 6 months diligently on time. He did not pay my mortgage for 6 months. So I lost out on my deposit. I had to be owned by a new rental company who then told me that my $170,000 home is now worth $265,000. How does that work? Anybody, like literally, question for the crowd. How does that work? How does that happen? It's the same home. They have not done any upgrades. They have not even come and swept out my gutters. But they're gonna, and the impact of just these conversations, we haven't even opened up a new session. Guess what I got in a letter in the mail? July 17th, I got a letter in the mail telling me that my $1,885 rent is now going to be $2,000 because ahead of anticipating what you guys are going to decide in the special session, my landlord raised my rent. So I just want you to know it's personal for all of us. We're feeling it now.
Good afternoon. My name is Herbert. I live in Lincoln. I'm in Senator Richard's area.
Oh, sorry.
Is that better? All right. Again, Lyle Herbert in Lincoln. When my family and I have a rough financial spot, we have 2 choices. One choice is
let's go get some more jobs, let's do some more work, get some more income, right? That's kind of what we're talking about. The other part, though, that a lot of people can, I think, empathize with, is you also have to cut spending, right? You start cutting corners, you try to figure out how you can do the same thing with less money. And I'm not hearing a lot, I'm sure you guys talk about that. I just don't see it in the news that much. Everybody wants to talk about, you know, tax and, you know, move it from this bucket to that bucket, and that's all important. But I think we need to also focus on reduction in spending. Thank you.
My name is Doug Lane, and the gentleman, I think he just made some really good points there. Anyway, Friday's newspaper has a big article here. Dillon unveils new push for property tax cuts, which is great, and I hope he is successful with that. And I was thinking to myself, there's been a lot of talk about tax cuts. But we haven't heard much from the cities or the other taxing entities until Friday. The same page, on the upper part of that newspaper, Stothert eyes $333 million bond package. And then tomorrow they'll be adding another $52,230,000 for parking garages they want to purchase from Mutual Home. And each one of these pages they have, it's always in the millions. Millions here, millions there. Pretty soon you're talking about real money, right? So, anyway, the cities seem to have, at least the city of Omaha, seem to have a spending problem. And they're very aggressive on their taxes. My wife and I built a house in the Benson area, if you're familiar with that, for $150,000. That's what we had, that was the budget, and that was every dime we could scrape together and borrow from the bank to build this house. That was 20 years ago. Right day one, they assessed it at $265. About died. And anyway, we put 4 kids through the Catholic school system with our money, and but we still paid with our private money to the public school systems. People talk about our public money going to the private school systems. Well, my private money went to the public school systems. Anyway, am I too close to the microphone? Oh, okay. All right, thank you.
My name is Dennis Kaiser. We've heard about rentals, and I'm sorry that somebody had an experience with a really lousy landlord. I'm a landlord. We own several rental properties. Taxes on those properties are usually in the area of 22% of the gross income. I have 2 properties, however, last year, that was a full 25% of the projected gross income. And we have a management company. I think they're holding the rents up market value. I don't think they're low. I'm sorry for the tenants that they have to be that high. But you cannot operate a business paying 25% of your gross out just for taxes. And then the same government that takes the taxes tells us that you have to allow the support animals. Our last support animal supported Menards because I had to replace a bunch of stuff. And then we had to get a whole new carpet for the bedroom because it was actually gone. The tenants actually took it out when it got so bad. Those kind of things happen. Last year we put in 4 new egress windows for safety. They're about $4,000 a piece, plus the insurance, everything else. It isn't just, easy peasy. But it's not just taxes in Nebraska. We moved here from Bismarck, North Dakota in 2017. My wife had a Chevy little car. We got the tax bill for the license up there was $98. I said, let's just wait, they're moving. We came here, it was $430 some. And it's like a wham, bam, stupid. The other thing, if we want to save money on schools, I don't think a lot of people want to agree here, but let's make so that the sports program does not run the school anymore. And I can give you an example. I'm up? Okay. Example is going to be in the hallway.
name's Tammy Damien, and I'm gonna miss you. Thank you for everything you've done. I love living in Lincoln, Nebraska. I love our public schools. I love our parks. I love our swimming pools. I love our public transportation. I love living here, and I don't mind paying my property taxes. What I know is what I looked at is that when we bought our new home 14 years ago, we were paying just over 2% on the value of the house. The taxes that we just paid were at 1.78%. So if I'm looking at percentages, my taxes have gone down. The value's gone up. Homes are investments. That's what's supposed to happen to investments. Governor Cullen didn't see a need for a public forum here. And I'm really sad that he's not here, because obviously there's a need. So thank you, senators, for being here. I wanted to quote what Julie Slama said, and what she talked about is that this plan is robbing Peter to pay Cullen. And I've looked at Cullen's property. I've looked at what he owns here in Lincoln, and for some reason that particular property has an exemption on it. I'm curious to find out more about that. And I think that that's a really interesting subject to look at. I was going to tell you a story about Peter, but we don't have that time to do that. So what I do want to say is that some of the exemptions that I looked at from Cullen's last plan that's published was going to be on small businesses. I'm a small business owner. If I have to cut taxes on the service I provide, I have to hire another accountant or pay more for my accountant to figure out how we pay or how we charge for the taxes, how we process it, to actually pay the taxes. And that's the majority of the exemptions I saw. I did not see the exemptions on pig food, on land, and other things, again, that Peter is being brought to pay Cullen. Governor Cullen also said that the average Nebraska just doesn't understand, and I do understand math. I also understand governments. Governments are here to serve the people, not to run like a business. Math is fair. Taxes should be fair as well. Thank you.
I see that there are some empty seats. If you have empty seats next to you, could you raise your hands, because there's quite a few people sitting. So if you want to come, former Senator Davis, if you want to come sit, there's seats over here. So please don't be shy. There are seats still available in here. So sorry, Justin, thank you.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Justin Hoogley. I'm the Executive Director of the Nebraska Association of Public Employees. I know most of you know me. Our union, our frontline workers, 8,000 of them, who work in all 93 counties in more than 300 job classifications all across Nebraska. And I'm here tonight to share with you a concern, give a caution, and hopefully provide a brief solution. The concern is as follows. When you passed the biennium budget last year, you funded a certain number of frontline state jobs to provide services to Nebraskans. The Platte County DMV and Senator Moser's district was closed for the better part of November and December because we couldn't staff it. The positions are vacant. The governor in May, as you know, issued an executive order closing 1,000 frontline vacancies. Now at this point, it appears he's only closed 500 of those positions, but we went from a 20% vacancy rate to a 16% vacancy rate. When 1 in 5 state jobs is vacant, everyone in this room suffers. The most vulnerable, more so than the rest of us, but we all suffer. So our concern is that in Cullen's playbook that I read, and I'm sorry I haven't seen the plan, it doesn't sound like you have either, but in the playbook, on the 6th page, there's a footnote that says he's going to balance this property tax plan by closing these jobs. Please don't do that, we'll all suffer. My caution to the group, we're less than 10 years removed from the Kansas experiment, also known as Sam Brownback's tax plan. Now while that was mostly on income taxes, the lessons to be learned just south of us are incredible. When Sam Brownback gave massive tax cuts, the state went into bankruptcy. They couldn't provide services, and the Republican-led legislature had to override his vetoes 5 years later to eliminate that plan, and he resigned as governor. And the people of Kansas elected a Democrat to fix the problem. Let's not go there. Now, Senator Brewer's not here, but I promised him 8 years ago, and one of you will rat me out if I don't do it. So I always promise if I speak, I try to offer one solution. I'm not an expert in property taxes, but if you do change things in property taxes, it's important that local control, I think everybody agrees with that they have some local control. But if you don't control what they can levy, the problems compound themselves. So Illinois has a law called the Property Tax Extension Limitation Law. The acronym is PTELL, P-T-E-L-L. It's worth a read. It basically limits the property tax extensions that local governments can do to the CPI from the previous year. Thank you.
My name is Paul Shada. I'm from Plymouth, Nebraska, small town. First thing, just the idea to reduce taxes this much And to throw it on you as a group to try and come up with the money is ridiculous. It makes you the evil legislature. And it's just, I just cannot understand it. It's what Washington, D.C. does a lot. If we look at who is really affected by this, in 2019, 33.7% of Nebraskans rented their homes. And a lot of these are paycheck to paycheck people. They are paying property tax. Anyone that's renting a property or a home has to include taxes, insurance, repairs, so they are paying the taxes on that property. When this big tax reduction comes and the property owner saves all this money, who continues to pay that tax? Those who are on the lowest levels of income. It's just not right to see. I think one of you had written that this is the reverse of Robin Hood. And it absolutely is. Because I know it's going after a lot of the ag properties. Governor Dillon, of course, is in ag, one of the largest in ag. For me, out in the countryside, I see it as a big bonus for him and his cronies. With 50 million plus in assets, who's to win? And let's do it for the common people. No. Let's do it for me. Let's do it for me and the corporation and all those who are making. Of course, farming is not real easy right now. $4 corn, yet farm just 5 miles from where I live sold for $11,400 an acre. And if we compare which assets belong to individuals, I'm sorry, my wife said, shut up and don't get me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Patty Quo. I'm here as a private citizen. I've been a resident of Lincoln for 5 years and a property owner for 4. I previously lived in New York, North Carolina, Michigan, and Indiana. I'm concerned about the downstream effects of this plan, which might allow for cities to leverage more taxes. Before moving to Nebraska, I've never encountered additional taxes to fund a parking garage at a mall. When I hear a plan to increase sales taxes in order to decrease property taxes, I'm filled with dread. This is coming from someone who has seen an increase in property taxes every single year. But the pain of the property tax is nothing compared to the thousands of paper cuts I feel when I see occupation tax, arena tax, energy tax. Charging additional sales taxes will lead consumers to buy in fewer quantities and less frequently. Local businesses and communities will suffer as a result. If this tax plan is intended to make living in Nebraska attractive, daily reminders of how expensive it is to buy things in this state is not wise. Thank you.
Before you start, I'm going to fix this.
My husband and I have owned a house in the East Campus community since 2013. In 2023, the county assessor raised our property taxes 49%. On average, my end of the neighborhood by 48th Street went up 25%. In 2024, the neighborhood average went up again 7%, while my valuation jumped 14%. I appealed this decision and was told by the assessor because I put siding on my house in 2021 and replaced the decrepit porch in 2022, it increased the value of my home.
I disagree. Both of these were long overdue and necessary improvements for a 100-year-old house. Houses need siding and porches. I had put my foot through the porch in the previous summer. Homeowners should not be punished with an increase that affects their mortgage to the tune of $300 a month. Our neighbors put siding on their house in the same year, and it did not have an effect on their valuation. The assessor puts their valuations together in an arbitrary manner. When comparing addresses on the county assessor's website, adjusted sale prices for a property may fluctuate from comparison to comparison. Some property valuations went up for 2024 and some did not. There is no consistency or transparent formula. I know the market affects evaluations, and I know the market has been going up. According to MLS sales for Lincoln, from 2020 to 2024, it rose 43%, not 73%, which is what my family is experiencing. The effects are having damaging results on Lincoln households.
Hello, my name is Wick. Thank you all for listening. I will be brief. I think I can accomplish the governor's goal and make a lot of people in this room happy. The average house value in Nebraska is $280,000, roughly. He wants a 50% property tax relief for us. Sounds good. Exempt the first $140,000 of everybody's personal income. Now, we will pay half. And there are some people who are not gonna like that plan. Works for everybody in here, but if you have lots of money and lots of property, it's not gonna work for you. But most of us will get half. I'm done.
Good evening, my name is Tom Berquist. Some of you know I worked for 46 years with the Legislative Fiscal Office. I'm retired, coming up on 2 years. What I wanted to share tonight is, frankly, the process that they're going to. You need to know what you're doing. That's the one thing we tried to do over 46 years. If it was simple, we would have passed it 46 years ago. It's not simple, and we're going in, and you're going into a process trying to redo the appropriations dramatically, change your tax system dramatically, and change the relationship between state and local governments in a 2-week time period. They just started instructions on a 2-year budget cycle. An awful lot of these changes are based on a consultant study which has barely been out, and no one even knows if the stuff makes sense or not. So I don't have a solution. What bothers me the most is the process. Know what you're doing. I probably shouldn't say that the governor's press conference was in the Warner Chamber. I was almost offended a little bit because this process violates virtually everything that he stood for. You study it, you know what you're doing, you know the results, you don't charge ahead. It's easy for me to say this now. I can say it now, I couldn't say it a few years ago. But that's what bothers me a little bit. I don't understand the crisis. The property tax problem has been around before the state was even a state. I was telling somebody, I find it ironic that of the 3 major tax systems, we're actually almost one-third if you adjust for sales taxes and other things in the property tax credit. Since 1967, the Holy Grail was one-third. That should be what we should be striving for. Now that we've actually achieved it, we want to undo it all. So I understand goals change. Anyway, all I wanted to offer was, this is a 2-year budget cycle starting in January. I'm not sure the crises, we've had special sessions, but the crises was due to economics. So just know what you're doing. Know what the results, what the impact is, and frankly, you don't have enough time in a special session.
Here.
All right, thank you. My name is Lorenzo Solano. I'm a resident of Lincoln, been here 10 years, and so I'll try and be brief, but talked about sort of it's regressive, tends to fall more on poorer people. So I'll move on to sort of one thing I've noticed is that nobody really seems to have been talking about potentially increasing the income tax. I know it's been cut recently. We brought it down to just 2 separate brackets. And I really do think that's a place where if we do want to reduce property taxes, income tax is something to consider, especially when you have sort of more wealthier people like Pillen, like Ricketts, like Warren Buffett, where increasing the income tax, having higher brackets wouldn't impact them as much as lower income people would. And so that's my sort of 2 thoughts on the property tax issue. And then briefly, I just wanted to touch on my concern with recently the Attorney General's opinion with regards to, you can correct me, I believe it's LB 20, the felon voting bill, and his decision to essentially, in my belief, nullify the law. And I think that if you do have the ability to discuss other things at the special session, to bring that up and try to bring something, because I do feel like this is the second time the Attorney General has really sort of abrogated the law, and so being able to sort of, as the legislature, reassert your power and say, we are the ones who decide the law, you are the one who enforces it, you cannot decide to overrule the law, is something that I would be very concerned about. Thank you.